The Carolina Hurricanes are now entering day 3 of this year's training camp, and yesterday we got to hear from a lot of players there, and the Carolina Hurricanes also unveiled their 25th anniversary patch. We will dissect all of that in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by the lovely folks over at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, folks, as I mentioned, the Carolina Hurricanes, they're going on with day 3 of training camp as we speak. So we're going to dissect day 2 from yesterday. And before we get into that, there were a couple things I did want to talk about first. First being the 25th anniversary patch being unveiled. We knew this was obviously going to be coming. Big season. We've all seen the center ice logo at this point of it being the anniversary logo for this year. So we all knew that. So we knew an anniversary patch was gonna be coming. And they did one for the 10-year. They did one for the 20-year. Like we knew this was gonna be happening. It was just a matter of time of when it would be coming out, you know? So we look at this and the patch itself, I like the patch. I do. It's a good looking one and no complaints there. Kind of typical anniversary patch. I think the one thing that I myself am a little torn on, and I know a lot of folks, online have had some discussions about is the location of it. And it's on I forget which arm. I think it's the left arm. It's on the left arm above the numbers. And I'm a little torn on that. I don't know if I necessarily like that placement. It's odd. It is very odd, but we all know why it's going to be there. And that's because on the chest, it'll likely be the ad for whoever it ends up being for the Hurricanes. As of right now, they haven't had their jersey sponsor unveiled. I know I've talked about it a little bit. I think it'll probably end up being, Lenovo, PNC Bank, Die Hard Batteries, maybe an outside shot of Harris Teeter. Also, Invisalign may be in the mix as well. You just kind of think of those first 3 have already been helmet sponsors. Harris Teeter's a big sponsor in general, and Invisalign is also a very, very big sponsor. They're the sponsor of the practice facility arena. So I think all those are going to be the names in the mix to be on the jersey. So I think they just maybe haven't established who it's going to be yet, and that's why we haven't seen it yet, plain and simple. So it's a fine patch. I mean, we've all seen it at this point. And if you've been to the eye, they also have like the anniversary like logo patch, like that you or myself, could go and buy, put on a jersey, jacket, hat, whatever. Those are out. I'll probably get one at some point, to be honest. But yeah, the new one. It's a fine patch. It's just the placement is odd, but we all know why. It's just gonna be. It's a little weird. Yeah. Actually, just thinking about it now. A few years back, the NHL 100th anniversary patch, if I remember correctly, that was on the arm. So it's not like it's never been done before. So it's been done. It's still just a weird placement and a placement I'm not. I'm still torn on. Yeah, I think as the season goes on and we get used to seeing it, maybe folks will kind of lighten their stance a bit. But you know, it's fine. No real issues. So it's just a weird placement, but, moving away from that, we heard from Rod Brind'amour and Ryan Dzingel and after day 1 of training camp, but, an audio that wasn't put out, was Calvin de Haan. Uh, Walt Ruff put out an article, yesterday about, Dzingel and de Haan of them coming back. Dzingel, again, we heard what he had to say, but de Haan, is some interesting stuff, and we will talk about what he had to say after day 1 of training camp right after this. Now, folks, hockey season is less than a month away. Football season is underway. Baseball season, they're gearing up for the playoffs. So, no matter who you want to bet on, BetOnline is the place for you. BetOnline is your number one source for all of your football betting info this season, whether it's the Wolfpack, whether it's the Carolina Panthers, Duke Blue Devils, ECU Pirates, or for whatever reason, the North Carolina Tar Heels. BetOnline.net has you covered. So find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with a live betting and up to the minute scores for every sport out there. They are the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, golf, wrestling, whatever it may be. BetOnline.net has you covered. So head over to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. Betonline.net, where the game starts. So, folks, as I mentioned, Calvin de Haan, had some interesting stuff to say the other day after day 1. Yeah, we're gonna pull that up and read just what he had to say, because again, I think it was interesting. I'm gonna read directly from the article of what he had to say. Quote, "I'm just trying my best to stay relevant. It was a frustrating summer because lots of teams are over the cap." He he began after initially admitting that he did think he'd have a guaranteed contract somewhere in the league by now. When it came time to accept a PTO, he wasn't going to just jump aboard with anyone. Quote, "A big thing for me is trying to get back into the playoffs. This team's been competitive since I was here, and ever since then, they've been a juggernaut in the NHL. I think they're close to getting to the next step, and I think I can help. I hope there's a spot for me, and I'd love to play here again." End quote. Although he had positive things to say about the personnel and organization, de Haan's desire to play for a winning team comes following 3, quote, underachieving seasons with the Chicago Blackhawks. And while some were surprised to see him make his way back to North Carolina, he's grown from how he initially felt upon his exit from the organization in 2019. Quote, "I was sour for a little bit, especially after playing what I played through in the playoffs. I thought I was a big part of that run. And but it was what it is. It's a business, and I really have started to understand that as I'm getting older." End quote. de Haan spoke of the situation. Quote, I want to help this team get to the next level, and I hope they want me." End quote. So yeah, I think a lot of folks thought that Ryan DeZingle, or not Ryan DeZingle, excuse me, Calvin de Haan, would be a guy with, a contract, but he's, on a PTO with the Hurricanes. And, a lot of folks, remember, when he left, how sour he was, me, especially. I know a lot of folks, remember, whenever, he left, and went to, was traded to Chicago. uh, you know, I tweeted, now that the Hurricanes are hoarding defensemen, can they bring back, Calvin de Haan because he was a fan favorite. A lot of people really liked him, but then, everyone remembers his response to me, just simple, "I'll pass." So, that was something where a lot of folks were surprised to see him back. And a lot of folks, were kind of talking some junk to him, about coming back, but, it was what it was. And I think, he does have something to offer this team at this point in his career. Yeah, he knows this system. That's something we talked about. Myself, Walt Ruff, Mike Maniscalco. He's a guy that knows this system. Same with Ryan Dzingel. They know how things go here. Yeah, it's a little bit different than it was when he was a last here, but you know, I do think he can really bring something to this team. I've said in my opening night roster predictions, I do think he will have a contract. I think he could be, especially now with Jake Gardner likely not being on that opening night roster. I think that he could be one where he's on that third pairing with Ethan Bear. I do think that, or at least, like a situation similar to last season of, having three guys there on that third pairing and, they all kind of cycle in and out. I do think that could be the case, but ultimately, we'll just have to wait and see, what happens with Calvin de Haan. You guys know my thoughts. I think that he could potentially be on this opening night roster. And I think he really can be. And he seems, to have matured. There's something that a lot of us do in old age, or as we get older, we all tend to mature a bit. And he seems to have done that as well. I know a lot of folks, are enjoying him being back in the Hurricanes fold of things, but ultimately only time will tell, whether he gets a contract. I've said that I could potentially see it being a like two-way deal, similar to Ryan Dzingel. So he's at least playing. He's going down, or back up to Chicago, I guess. If we're talking geographically, but down to Chicago as far as the AHL goes. But it is what it is there with him. But that's we gotta wait and see. As far as day two goes, we did hear from several folks. We heard from Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Brind'amour, and Alex Pashin. We heard from all of those guys. And we will now hear from Jesperi Kotkaniemi and just what he had to say following day two of training camp.
I didn't even realize I was going to bring the crowd.
That's what you do, Chipper.
Did Patty just do media?
Talk about the differences this year as opposed to last year. When you came in on the offer sheet and you got thrown in the mix. A little bit normal this year.
I think now I know how everything works. So it's same system, same guys, same coaches. So I think this year will be better. We got high expectation for the whole team. So hopefully we can reach those.
There's probably higher expectations for you as well. Last year you were playing probably a little less minutes than you would have liked, but this year's a big opportunity for you to kind of step up and take some more of those minutes. How are you kind of handling that kind of expectation?
Yeah, I'm gonna step up my game a little bit. Be a little more productive when I go on the ice. We're gonna play with good guys, so and show the coaches I'm worth that.
How did you handle that last year when you were playing, kind of less minutes than you might have liked?
I know my role whole year, so it was not a big deal. Like I said before, many times we had a great team last year, so there's a lot of competition of the spots in the lineup. So the ending was a little tough, but overall it was a good year, I think.
There's always a little bit of turnover here. It seems like 5, 6, 7 guys. What do you think of the newer additions that you've been able to glean so far from that?
Yeah, I think they're great. A couple older guys. I think they will be playing a big role in the playoffs. In the locker room and on the ice. I think those hopefully are the missing pieces that we needed last year, and I think the team's looking strong, and we have a good atmosphere every day. So hopefully we can keep that up.
Anybody looking like they got an extra zip in their step in training camp so far?
Jarvis been looking pretty good. Can't lie to you guys.
We'll tell him he said that. You put the expectations on him.
Yeah, I think we all do.
How good can this team be this year?
What's that?
How good can this team be this year?
Going to be the best in the world. So, I think that's what we expect, and that's what we work for every day.
Thanks, KK. Do you consider shaving your head too?
No.
So, as far as you listen to Jesperi Kotkaniemi, big thing that I think a lot of us, thought, going into the season following last season was, that he was going to have a bigger role in this team, this year, especially with Vincent Trocheck being gone, and now him likely moving into that second line center role. And he did say, now he knows the system, and he's been here and knows how things go. And I do expect him to have a bigger role on the team and improve, have more minutes. That was something that got brought up there, was his that he didn't get the minutes and the ice time that he was necessarily used to. But I do expect, bigger things from him this year. He signed that long-term extension to stay here and be that long-term second line center. But yeah, I think he is going to take a big step forward this year. I really do. I really do think we're going to see some improvement from Jesperi this year. Again, he's gonna have a bigger role on the team. He's gonna be getting more ice time, you would think. And again, now he knows how things go. That was something that I said last year, especially in the first part of the season, was you know he's on a new team, and having to learn how that stuff works and get used to find his footing here. And in the back half of the season, he did seem to improve in his overall game. They kind of like found what works for him. And another thing that I had said is that Montreal not necessarily the best at developing talent, and the Hurricanes very much are good at developing talent. So he's also kind of having to make up some ground in terms of his development in the NHL. But I really, really do think he can be something this year. I think talking about Seth Jarvis, taking or really looking good in training camp so far. That's a lot of folks are expecting him to also have a big year this year. And he's looking like it. I think he is another guy. Now he's got a full year of experience here in Raleigh. He knows how things go and what's expected and how to do things. He's used to the NHL game now. I he's another guy expecting big things from him this year. And also the veteran guys coming in. We talked about Calvin de Haan already. Ryan Dzingel and Andre Kasha, Paul Stastny. Let's see, we got Brent Burns. While he's not practicing right now, hurt, but Max Pacioretty. You got all these veteran guys coming in. I do think that's really good. And I'm really, really excited to see what this team can do this year. I really, really am. And, a lot of folks are predicting that, the Hurricanes will, make it to the Cup final right now. And, I think that they have a lot of pieces in place to make that a reality. I really, really do. But ultimately, we won't know until we know. And like I said, we also heard from Rod Brind'amour and Alex Pashin uh, after day 2 of training camp. But a lot going on right now. So we're going to hear from them in another episode, in a part 2 of day 2 of training camp recap. We're going to hear from them in an episode literally going up right after this one. So make sure you're following Locked On Hurricanes on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes. Myself on Twitter at Jared Ellis _96. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you are just enjoying the show and enjoying Carolina Hurricanes training camp. Hockey is right around the corner, and I'm excited for it. And I will talk to you guys in the next episode where we hear from Rod Brind'amour and Alex Pashin.